6:30. All right. Members present remotely, Gayatri, members present in person. Kim, Dave, Don, and Charles. A quorum of 5 is present. The meeting of the Public Works Committee is called to order. First item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from 1/27/25. Are there any corrections that members present would like to offer to those minutes? Hearing none, I accept the minutes as they've been submitted by Sean. Thank you, Sean. Next item on the agenda, Franklin Avenue Reconstruction Award of Bid 24-121. All right.
Yeah, so let me give you the short version here. We opened up the bid, and with all 4 alternates, the amount read in is $2,119,902.75. And so that's the recommended award amount to Northwestern Stone LLC. But Dan Perry has been in discussion with the contractor about potential changes to the scope of work because the water utility portion of this project is not funded sufficient to cover the costs as bid. So the contract, oh, your scarf just dropped there, Kim. Between Dan and the contractor, they came up with a couple of ideas and potential cost savings if we were to exercise them, the lion's share of which would be to continue use of the existing water services, which are the largely 1-inch diameter copper pipes that get from the public main out in the street into your house. The way the project had been bid, the intention was to replace the copper pipes under the paved area up to and including a new curb box where the shutoff valve is that plumbers can access. So you see it as a 3-inch iron disc in your grass or sidewalk often. And that's the last part that's actually owned by the water utility. From there toward the house is owned by the, private party. Whether that's a resident or business. So lately we've been replacing services, the public portion of services, with public mains. Longer ago, we used to do what's being talked about here, which is just reconnect the services that are in okay shape. So if they're old rusty steel pipes, we get rid of them, right? If they're lead pipes, which we don't have that we know of, we'd get rid of them. But if they're copper in good condition, we used to keep them. Part of the thinking lately has been like, let's just get that stuff out of our system all at the same time and reset the shot clock on its age. Here for $150,000, I would think pretty seriously about just keeping the existing copper in service. The second idea, I'm going to open up a diagram here because when I sent you all a note on, I think it was Friday, I probably used a lot of terminology that's not helpful, but it's the only way I know how to talk about these things. So next to a water main, which is the 8-inch diameter iron pipe, there's a little shutoff valve that gets tapped right into the side of the iron, but it's buried, it's inaccessible, right? And then we have the copper pipe that runs over to, like I said, that little 3-inch iron disc you see up at grade. That is just a small vertical tube that goes to another small brass valve on that line before it goes into the house. And these come, one side of the street and the other side of the street. When we lay a new main in on slightly different alignment than the existing main, because while we're building this, we need to continue using the old one. I'm going to switch to my hand, maybe make it a little, we need to continue using the old one until this is all pressure tested and safe tested and ready to be put into service. Then the plumber comes back and starts tapping in these little brass valves that are just tight to the water main and reconnecting copper, or building new copper, doesn't really matter which. But if we're reconnecting, in this case, I sketched in some blue lines. So we have what we'd call the short side, those where we can just cut this piece of copper tubing and bend it down to the corporation stop. That's just that buried valve. Or they can put on a compression coupling and extend new copper over to the new water main. So you'd have old copper and new copper to get to the main. So we've got these short side, long side kinds of things. So when the contractor is digging up anyway next to the old main to put on their fitting by which they can extend new copper, they're going to be right at this valve anyway and can shut it off and crimp the copper. On this side, you'd end up with a sort of long-ish dead tail of copper because they're going to cut it here and bend it down. But this, they would just leave. There's no reason for them to dig back to the old main on these near side ones. So part of the thinking is, if we would want these dead, closed, no potential for a hole in the pipe some fine day. And that's the biggest risk with these, is if a future excavator were to snag this thing and pull on it, they would think, oh, that's abandoned, it's dead, I don't have to worry about it. But if we haven't closed this valve because we didn't dig back to it, that could potentially open up a hole in the 8-inch diameter pipe that's out of service and cause some future subsidence just because of soil loss that's opening up a void under the road. So the second option kind of has two paths. One, if we don't care about the risk, right? And I think it's a pretty low risk, but if we don't care about the risk, we could save another $50,000 from bid prices. If we do care about that risk, which would be my preference, we could have the contractor still dig back to these old locations of the near side crossover services and close these valves so that even if a contractor in the future hooked that copper and snagged it, dragged it, it isn't going to open a hole in the pipe, and we're not going to get some sort of void under the road. That would effectively cost us back another $20,000 in round numbers. But again, the contractor on these ones that are going to the long side, they're going to be right there anyway. So it really shouldn't cost anything to close that valve. They're going to be 6 inches away from it. So that's the high level view. So one is do these sorts of long side, near side connections. And then from here over, all this stuff just remains in service. The curb stop, curb box remains in service. And then any of the concrete curb or sidewalk that we were thinking we'd have to remove and replace because of needing to trench along this line, we wouldn't have to replace that, which is a big part of what's saving the utilities some money here. Then is we don't need copper, we don't need concrete, we don't need the excavation to make all this happen. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How many of these, I mean, Franklin's not a new street, but how old are the homes there?
Do you remember, Dan, offhand, what age these are? I thought they were late 50s.
Yeah, give me like 30 seconds here. I can look.
Sweet.
So
Yeah.
late 50s, they could, most of them be copper. I'm just worried, if there's a lot of steel, it's going to bring back a lot of the money.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't have a really good way around that because
Yeah.
if it's steel and of that age, they're probably useless. I think we'd expect them to be copper. And
Yeah,
So then we have to replace them no matter what if they're steel.
we should. Otherwise, we're just going to be digging them up one at a time.
What a date here. Looks like about, I mean, the plan sheets I'm looking at look like an old 50s plan. But I don't see an actual date on this one.
Yeah, and I think they were variable, block by block, these subdivisions get built, but I thought they were sort of late
Yeah,
here.
I got one 1952
Oh, okay.
section of Franklin Avenue between Mayflower and Park Lawn, or Park Street, Mayflower on Park Street. There's 1952 there, so
Gotcha.
probably that dates the whole system probably around that age.
Good. So a little older than I thought. So I don't know if you want to consider these options one at a time. The big one, of course, is this, let's reuse what's already there service wise. That's ballpark $150,000 question.
Makes sense to me. If we just reuse what's there, if it's usable. Would the buried shut-off valves, then we would reuse those as well, or
These curb stops would.
not the
remain
curb
in
stops would
service.
stay there? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm talking, you're talking, there's valves at the main that are,
the corporation stops would be brand new.
okay,
They would be
Okay.
part of this blue infrastructure.
okay.
Yep.
Okay,
And those are made out of brass, so they'll last indefinitely.
Do we have any idea what kind of shape that copper pipe is in?
I don't think that we do, no.
Okay.
I know typically when we had dug up pretty old streets because we were replacing main, the copper that we ran into was in good condition. Historically.
How long does copper last?
I don't know. Dan, do you have a lifespan on copper or Mike?
I don't have one offhand. I can definitely get the information for.
Negative here. That's a interesting question, actually.
Yeah, right.
well, okay, given that. We're only replacing, if we went with not accepting any of the alternates, we'd still replace it all the way to the curb stop.
Correct. If we say no to this first question, yes, we would have all new copper up to and including this
The
curb stop.
So it doesn't, from there on into the home, that's a homeowner's pipe.
Yep, that's their private copper.
So if theirs is still good, then ours is probably still good. Really doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, I would think too. I don't know what the age of copper, lifespan of copper is. I know we usually try to figure ductile iron like this could be good for 100 years if it's not in reactive soils. Gas just breaks because it gets really brittle. It's not that the pipe is worn out. It just can't take shifting any. So it tends to snap. Again, unless it's in reactive soils, then it'll chew a hole through it.
Yeah.
Its lifespan's looking, I mean, probably don't have all the data, but it's saying 50 to 70 years. So, yeah, you're there, but also like you're saying, the stuff on the homeowner side has always been left alone and seems to be fine. I don't know if there's reports of, after you go through and do a project and redo the copper, that the other side is, coming back and need to be ripped up.
For soft copper tubing, did you look that up?
Soft copper, yeah.
And realistically, that asphalt would be a 30-year. I mean, if we did it right, maybe 35 before we'd be tearing that asphalt up.
Again, yeah.
So if we had a problem,
70 years on average.
Okay, thanks. That's good to know because we're about there
Mhm.
now.
And so we just hope that it lasts another 30.
The min max on this is not looking
Yeah.
great.
We're talking 100 years.
Yeah,
We're asking the copper to survive 100 years.
Yeah, it's
It
pushing it.
seems to be pushing.
We've got copper downtown that's gotta be older than this.
Oh,
Yeah.
We didn't replace it with the mains.
and then if we didn't accept the alternate or take it out, they don't have the money, correct?
Well, it's not that the water utility doesn't have money, but we have some other big ticket items coming up. And while we've always enjoyed being sort of in a good cash position without having to borrow, we're starting to run out of those days. And, you know, we've got well 5 that we're looking at. We're looking at some work on well 7. We just found out, well, you know, Century Avenue keeps breaking, so we're gonna have to do something about that. Either relay it or relocate it.
Mhm.
And that's a pretty big ticket item. There's on 6300 University Avenue, which is really just a site development, but there's a main that runs from University Avenue to Mound Drive, just north of there. That's in very poor condition, and with new development going in there, we have our eye on maybe we should replace that. So there are things starting to chip away at cash, and it is a city hall if we want to start borrowing money again. And we might not be able to avoid it anyway. But you know, it kind of all factors into, well, how much is this particular project worth to some degree? We thought we were in a pretty good estimate when we funded this thing, but it turns out the pricing is at a different scale than we were prepared for with our estimate. It's partly the nature of bidding, I'm afraid. You know, whatever the contractor tells us it is, it is. So I think it was, you know, just in talking with Mike and in talking with Dan, our overall impression was this is probably a risk we'd recommend taking.
$230,000 risk.
It's really a $2.1 million risk, because if we're wrong about the copper pipes and there's a significant defect, we're gonna have to tear up everything to get at them.
Right.
And it's a project.
Won't they know that pretty quick? As they start digging and exposing that water main?
No,
Handle on how good that copper is that's underground now?
I don't know if it would have eroded from the inside or outside. If it's pitted on the outside surface,
Yeah, it's a
we've
problem.
probably got something going on with soils.
Yeah.
And that would be something, yeah, that we would find out right away. If there's an internal defect, we wouldn't know it until it opens a hole.
Oh, you would when you start to bend it.
Yeah, right. It just breaks instead.
Yeah, I mean.
Sean.
I haven't run into that. So, yeah.
Sean, are you aware of a history of any, corrosive soils down there? I can't think of anything personally that we've had issues with, in that area.
No, I think the soils, at least from what I dug in Franklin Avenue in the past for storm sewer work, which was a little shallower than this, they were pretty good soils, I thought.
That's kind of what I recall as well, if that's coming into question.
Sort of a sandy loam, I think.
That's kind.
Yeah, so we might find out. The flip side is, you had mentioned, well, it wrecks the whole project, but it still would be, as failures occur, if we have to replace stuff, basically what we'd have had to done anyway is dig trenches sideways. So we're not digging up the whole road, we're digging 5 feet of road going sideways through the curb and gutter. And probably up to and including jeopardizing some sidewalks. So it's a couple sidewalk squares, piece or two of curb and gutter, and a 5 foot wide piece of road. Ish. To get those out of there. Maybe 8 by the time we patch it. So.
Sure. Yeah, and then the kids lose their nice skateboarding service.
Yeah, and if they sink just a little bit, they get a nice whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Kids on the longboards will love it.
But that only lasts 5 years or so. They're done. Done playing. So do you see other things on the horizon? I guess start of the year right now that we're other projects. So if we're running into costs, running into materials issues and all types of things like this on our other projects, the other ones may all start to kind of run over a little bit too that we have in the works.
Yeah, we haven't opened bids for the Parmenter Street job yet, but there's very little water on that work. It's mostly a curb and gutter and sidewalk project, not a utility project. Do you remember offhand, Mike, just looking at getting rid of cast iron, what else is on our plate besides Century Avenue?
You're talking the trouble run that we're having.
Yeah, or just even planning to get rid of old cast iron pipes.
Yeah. Well, you kind of talked about the Mound Drive. That's a cast pipe. The Century Ave is our number one issue right now. Again, as you've all seen, we've been out there every time the weather and the temperatures spike. But I can't really. We seem to have issues at Nina. I think there's some cast in there that is causing issues, but
Yeah.
as far as the Parmenter project goes, it's very minor.
Right.
Yeah. and
But you're
just-
right, Columbus and Mayflower there with the courts.
Right.
Also needs to go away.
Yep. Yeah. Those are our main problem areas. Those are where we've had the most recent breaks. I think we've had 2 at Nina now, one around Christmas and then one last week. Luckily, those are quick fixes, not near the headaches that we see on Century Avenue.
Sean, I'm just looking at our 5-year plan at the, excuse me, the reconstruction table. And, we've got Lake and Dewey, which we did last year, Franklin this year, Parmenter, which we're doing. It pretty much is that Columbus, Mayflower, Mound Drive area. High Road, which is another area we're looking at. And that's kind of it. A couple of Elm Lane and Lee Street, but that's about it. So we don't have a lot of water main reconstructs left.
Yeah, well, and I think High Road is newer pipe. That's just a bad road.
Okay, so that would, yeah, so really that Columbus neighborhood there is the last big reconstruction project we have.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
If we borrow money, because if you know what our interest rate is, if we're borrowing it against ourselves, sort of that's different. I mean, I'm sort of splitting it into 2 things in my head. One is technically what's the right thing to do? Is it putting the money aside is the right thing to do really to replace everything up to the outdoor shut off at the front yard shut off valve and borrow the money now because we're gonna have to maybe pay later anyhow if these things start breaking or.
And that is the route that the city has been taking for, I don't know, Sean, how long have we basically been doing that now for the last how many projects?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably 10 or 15 years, I bet, since we switched.
Yeah, so it would be, and I talked to the crew about this today, and they're like, "Oh man, that could really, by not doing the full, you don't know uh exactly what you said, what the future could hold as far as, yeah, when we get leaks and then what we have to tear up to deal with that. The safe route is to do the full replacement and spend the money now, which is, um, I like I said, we had put together, trying to save money, knowing that we do have other issues coming. But I mean, this is also important too, and you are in the ground now versus having to tear it all up again at a latter point, right?
Right. Yep. That's the decision.
And you probably end up borrowing the money when you did like well five, or something like that.
We might, yeah, because that's getting kind of
If you
pricey.
spend it now,
I
rather,
sort of look at it this
Yeah,
way.
exactly. We wouldn't borrow money now. We wouldn't
Yeah.
borrow money till we have to.
yeah.
Right.
I sort of look at it this way, we're the public works. Are we? Are we a technical body or a financial body? So for a technical body, that's gonna advise the city to do. Best thing for longevity. Then we make that recommendation. And we say to finance and common council. So here's the deal. Technically, this is really the right thing to do for longevity, long term. Those houses are already 75 years old. Yes, we have copper in the city that's 100 years old.
But we're in the street now.
But
Mhm,
right,
we're in the street now.
in the street now. And how do you feel, finance and common council, about potentially, having to take on debt? And then we have a discussion with city finance and finance director, and we see where we're at, and I don't know. I mean,
Well, in this body,
We're also the board of directors for the water utility.
my statute is a little of both hats here. Yeah,
Of both.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because of utility stuff.
I mean, when you look at it too, when you're talking the 230,000 roughly, when you throw it in the hat with like the well 5 and the well 7, this 230 is pretty, I mean, it's significant, but it's fairly low ball when you're talking some of these other major projects.
I
Compared
hate to say $250,000 is a rounding error, but yeah.
right. I
Really
don't want
big
to
projects.
yep, I don't want to say
like
that.
how much would it cost the city to go back 2 years from now, dig the street up, dig the curb up, and put a new connection in to somebody's yard?
Well, or even 5 or 7 years from
Yep.
now. I mean, the cost of supplies and materials isn't going to go down
Don't do
over
them.
time.
Do them on a piecemeal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So how much?
But you'd still have the citizens coming in and say, well, wait a minute, we just did that street. Why are you digging it
Why are you
back
digging it up?
Yeah, right. Especially if it breaks within
Now
someone's
Chicago.
memory.
Chicago, they do that.
Yeah. No, and let's be honest. You're excavating soil. You're disturbing the area around it. 100%. Like, who's to say that as soon as you cover it up, a little bit of time later, some settlement happens naturally, and you do end up having these issues. It's definitely a possibility. You're also adding in, as Sean stated, a brass coupler. And not that there's anything wrong with those, but it is just another potential for something to go wrong at that spot. And we have seen that many times where that new
Yeah.
union.
Where you've excavated the
Yes.
soil, put it back, that soil isn't compacted as much, the soil is undisturbed where the original copper is. Over time, you could get a stress point.
Exactly.
So I would move that the award as bid. No alternates,
And that would include
replacing the cover.
full copper curb stops and abandonment of old services then, so they're not just putting this stuff in all blue up to and including curb boxes and curb stops, but then
Right.
also redigging these to shut off the corpse.
Right.
Okay.
And pass that on to finance and cover. The order is and legal to review it, I would assume also.
Yeah, it'll go to finance,
Mhm.
finance council.
And legal has to sign the contract.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything's always pending city attorney review.
I'd second that motion. Don made. We're in the ground.
As
now.
sporadic as it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's that we're recommending to finance and personnel and common council award of a construction contract. Back to my agenda here. To Northwestern Stone in the amount of $2.2 million. Including the base bid and 4 alternates for the sanitary sewer. We have money in the sanitary sewer account to afford those. And then with allocation of additional funds in the water utility.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So that's been moved and seconded.
I need a second.
Yes.
Yeah, I just can't see doing it and then 5 years later, be back out there digging.
yeah,
Could be 3,
Could be 3, yeah. In
Could be 3, could be 8.
January.
could be 30.
yeah.
In January.
Yeah, it will be January for sure.
Right.
yeah. And we have these extreme cold events, and are we gonna have more? You know, extreme cooling,
Yeah.
warm, without snow on the ground, so you get
Yeah.
further penetration down into the soil.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think any of us really want to be in a situation where, 5 or 10 years go by and we have individually
During-
done, a third of Franklin because of additional stresses, so. All right, do we have any further discussion? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries unanimously. Right, item number 3, is Franklin Avenue Reconstruction Amendment 2 to Engineering Services Agreement.
Yeah,
and-
so this will be to engage Veerbicker to be our eyes and ears on the ground and do the contract administration. So review of shop drawings and any change orders that come up, all the measurements that go with it. To effectively be the city engineer out on this project. So our recommendation is to engage them in the amount of $156,400 for construction phase services.
So, yeah. I'll move that we engage Rebecca in services and pass it on to finance council approval.
I'll second that motion.
Motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dan and Mike and Sean, for joining us on this.
Yes, thank you guys.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
All right. So now we are back to policy development, engine vehicle idling.
Yeah. This is the result of the couple of edits that we had talked about at the last meeting. I shared those with Brad, who our operations manager, who again, I think shared them with Brian Gebhardt, our mechanic. As expected, they didn't have any heartburn with the changes we suggested. So this is back. With a recommendation to approve the policy.
I looked through, it. I thought It's fine.
Yeah, this
Yep.
definitely addresses the concerns I had about cold stress.
I think you got everything, all the high points.
All right.
Happy to make a motion for that. Accepting that. It's drafted.
I will second that motion. Right. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting this policy, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Great. Now, item number 5, a snowplow naming contest. So the city has a new plow, and Alder Canairo emailed suggesting a naming contest, which is something that a few other cities have done, and it's been a good, fun method of civic engagement. I like that Plowy McPlowface exists in Portland.
And several other areas.
Yeah, it's a
As I
very,
was looking, it seemed like people are just copying from one city to the next.
yeah, I think they saw they may have seen a John Oliver segment, and that,
Make total sense.
yeah.
The shark teeth seem to be very popular.
Yeah, so,
The shark don't swim in the snow.
Oh,
Land shark.
But you could have polar bears.
I think the way it makes sense would to be if we decide this is something that we want to do, to recommend to council and, for city attorney review. And then let council decide whether this is something that they want to engage the city's communications manager and other partners potentially in. Personally, I'm looking at this, and we do want to make sure that as we're doing this contest, we're sensitive to the need for a good name for the plow to an extent, but also the rights of everyone to express themselves under the First Amendment. And without going into the weeds of that, I think one potential solution would be to partner with the Middleton Cross Plains Area School District and see if their students have names that they'd recommend. And that way, we're not in the position of censoring the names. They're, elementary school kids recommending it, voting in their classrooms, and then it comes to the city for a vote.
so and you're proposing that we only limit that to elementary school students, because I can tell you that my teenagers would name the plow something rather offensive.
But the schools have the ability,
No, hardly, but they're,
but see, the schools have the ability to prune the list
I see.
more aggressively than we do.
well, and that does address my concern, because that if we were going to have some kind of naming contest, then how we select finalist needs to be.
Yeah, maybe even at least up through junior high, or your teenagers are in junior high.
No,
junior high.
there's senior and junior in high school.
Okay, so up through ninth grade?
Yeah, middle
Wow.
schoolers.
Middle schoolers?
No, okay, grade school.
Yeah.
That would be good. I'd go along with grade school.
Didn't know is, do we want to consider artwork or just names? It's like Dave had alluded, some communities.
Yeah, the ones I saw there.
Allowed
They're like, paint
kids
them.
basically to go through a coloring book exercise, and then an artist transfers that onto the blade.
Oh, those, I mean, the kids were doing it.
And sometimes the kids are the artists.
Kids were just out there painting them.
And I think having that kind of art piece of it, like really does improve community engagement. Like I would like to see more than just like, we publish this as the name of the plow. Like, I'd like to see
That's part of it
something.
is what happens.
And-
to that.
And I think if, engaging something kind of on the professional side is getting expensive. I look at this as something where we are not having to engage public works, city maintenance staff, time and effort on this. If they pull the truck out and they set it out somewhere near the Middleton Operating Center and the plow is clean, and our city communication people say this is the day when you can come out and paint and name it. Kids show up with their tempera paint or whatever they want to do to paint it, because it's all going to wear off anyhow in the snow.
Yeah,
First year.
yeah. But the salt and slush meets the blade.
I think the way they showed it was, it was published not too long ago in one of our municipality magazines. So the kids painted it, and then it was like in the, Good Neighbor Festival equivalent.
Mhm.
And the plow just, was part of the parade.
Well, and that's the next question. Do we want to try to name 8 or 9 blades or 1 or? How
Well, I think the
do that?
initial emphasis was on new plow,
Yeah, we were.
Right,
Wow.
so that's one.
Okay.
I agree, just the one.
Yeah, I think 1 is enough.
Yeah. We could just have it be winning, if they do it as, classroom submissions, they vote there, in the elementary school, then winning class gets their handprints on it in addition to the name.
Exactly.
And that's,
Leave the creativity up to the teachers and
The
kids and,
students. Mhm.
And our city.
I'd love to see them in the Good Neighbor Parade.
We have a director of communications.
Yes.
That's really kind of
Mhm.
their skill wheelhouse set.
Oh, yeah.
And probably from a legal safety standpoint, it's more along the lines of it could be, I don't know if our city attorney has to draft a slight document, but bottom line is, once the truck is put outside somewhere in a safe place, it's assured that it's safe for the kids to walk around and crawl around and paint it, whatever they're gonna do.
Oh, I would think we would just set the blade down, not leave the truck
Exactly.
there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, you could, your staff could just draft the guidelines, what they want, where the kids should and shouldn't go, just a little checklist for the teacher. Like show up here, the plow, the blade will be sitting here.
yeah, and just make sure that the city attorney reviews as well.
Yeah,
But the city attorney is going to be reviewing every stage of this.
it matters, safety for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my son is one of those, my oldest son is one of those potential kids. So,
Yeah, right, I mean, they'd have a blast.
And we're thinking of engaging or inviting then all elementary schools, but only 1 entry from all schools can be the winner.
And it could be
And that's.
our arts committee could even vote on it. I mean, if we wanna. I don't know how we would make that determination. What would be the winning art, our name? We do have an arts commission.
We do.
yeah,
Assuming each school only gets 1 entry, then they have to vote on
Yeah.
their own.
yeah, they vote within the schools and then the last ones. And it's also a great list building opportunity for both the city and for the schools.
So after they vote on their entry, then you're thinking the arts committee could vote among the,
Review them and make a
do we
decision.
have 4?
Yeah.
Finalists, I'll say.
Yeah, there's 4, right?
It's kind of like they did with the bus, with the artwork on the bus. Shelters,
Yeah, right.
right? It was all submitted and then. Kind of the same with the Lake Street
Or the art piece. for
art
the
piece
Lake Street.
sculptures.
Mhm.
We didn't I don't ever recall the common council sitting there and looking at each piece and going, yay, nay, yay, nay.
No,
Because the meeting wouldn't end till like 12 at night.
Right.
So-
we go late enough.
My kid's school.
Exactly. Can you
I'm
imagine?
assuming it would be blind, but.
True.
That's right, we wouldn't know what school submits it. There you
True.
go.
Well, my daughter will tell me if it granddaughter will tell me if it comes from her school.
Yeah, my son will absolutely tell me which one is Elm Law.
Well, and
Oh,
would we want the
yeah.
arts committee to decide, or would we want to put that to like a public vote?
Yeah,
Like, here are the final 4 submissions, and then have city residents vote on which one they
I
choose. I think that,
know
that
enough
gives
of
us more community involvement than,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of
just leaving
online
it.
thing as opposed to a mailing.
right, well, yeah, exactly, and online.
and the online thing also allows us to collect
Mhm.
information and
Well, it's easy enough to,
opportunity to sign up.
you know,
for
post a
this.
QR code and put it in the Middleton Minute and get
Yeah,
it on our website.
There, QR codes. Now we're with it.
yeah.
So,
Writing all this down, Sean?
Yep.
So
He's drawing a QR code.
My memory, yeah.
So just to summarize what I'm hearing taking shape as the process here, Public Works is going to recommend to Common Council to partner with the MCPASD for the purpose of having the elementary school students provide names for the plow. Each school
Names or art?
Names and.
names,
Names and
names and artwork for the plow. Each school would get one submission of each. And then we would recommend that there be a public vote on the ultimate name and artwork for the plow.
yes,
And this all be delegated to communication staff.
yes,
And then the kids painted.
Mhm.
That's what I saw. That's what I read in the municipal magazine piece that I saw, that kids actually did the artwork.
Okay. And then it's put into the Good Neighbor Fest parade.
Yep,
Yeah.
they put it in a parade. How many
Oh, there
parades
is
do we
only
have?
one.
This
That
one?
one.
That's all
this
we
is the
have?
one, yeah, Good Neighbor Fest is the big,
I think we typically have had Santa come to the tree lighting, the community tree lighting at Thanksgiving time.
Oh,
Could show up there too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think historically he's been on a fire truck. I don't remember that for certain.
no, I think that sounds right. That's what I
we
remember
mounted
from
a plow and
last
fire
year.
truck.
But I mean, right, if it's a plow, which Santa
always
could show up on a
first time.
plow, that's not to say. you couldn't.
No, we put the plow on the
Fire truck.
Plow. on-
I'm just trying to think of the.
Just scratch up the chrome some.
Santa on the, oh, in the back and the. So,
There's always a chance though that in November, we're actually using the plow.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
think the
that's
Neighbor
right.
Fest Is,
It's gotta be before
Mhm.
November.
yeah,
yeah.
I think Good
Yeah.
Neighbor Fest is our best.
yeah, Good Neighbor Fest is definitely.
So timing wise, probably not this year, but for next summer, for Good Neighbor Fest this summer. Oh, maybe we could do it by this summer.
Yeah,
Never
we-
I
mind.
think so.
Never mind. Yeah.
This
I
is-
think there's time.
Yeah, this is plenty
Yeah,
of time.
next time.
The oddity is people aren't really thinking about next snow season right now, but
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they're thinking about it right now.
They will.
Yeah.
If the artwork soliciting the votes from the general populace is good. they'll-
That's the thing, it's like middle of summer, who wants
Yeah.
to vote on a snow?
Well, I know, but the communications people have to take care of it. They're the smart cookies.
That's for comms to worry about. They can figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, so I'd like to incorporate my summary as a motion.
Oh,
Or
I'll second
Okay.
it.
Second.
motion, we have a second. Is there further discussion?
I'm writing down, the motion was by Myers and second by Knorr.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Great. So is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. This is gonna be fun.
I think it'll be really cute. I'm gonna go with the same. Come up with.
Kids do.
Yeah.
Never know, it could be.
I'm having gone to the art exhibit on school out on the airport for my granddaughter. There's some marvelous artists in
Oh,
those
yeah.
elementary
Yes.
schools. Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
What they can come up with.
And
We'll
Carol was
play
could apply the
piano at
gold
age
leaf,
4.
you have extra, right?
Yeah.
Right, liaison briefings, no discussion or action. The Conservancy Lands Committee did not meet. There is no update. Carrie's absence. Don,
None, no meeting.
no meeting. Future meeting agenda items with no discussion or action. Gayatri,
Nothing right now.
okay. Kim,
I have nothing.
Dave,
Nothing.
Don. Nothing here either.
Okay.
All right, with that, we've reached the end of our noticed agenda. The meeting is adjourned. Congratulations, we kept it under an hour.
And you can make it to the library.
Make it across the street.
Yeah.
We've had 2 common council meetings in a row that we got through them pretty quick.
Pretty
too,
quickly.
like, were we done by